Welcome to the Heidi Thorne Show. I'm your host, Heidi Thorne, and in this podcast, I share my real-world self-publishing and small business experience with you. So let's get started with today's show. Stories is quickly becoming a standard feature on social media networks. It's even on LinkedIn. So let's talk about stories today, how it all came about, how you can use them, why there are advantages to using stories. It all got started in 2011 with Snapchat, the social media network. That network became quickly popular with teens. The posts on Snapchat are vertically oriented photos and videos of up to 60 seconds that the users could embellish with filters and all kinds of other creative things. But the best feature about it was that it all disappeared after 24 hours. So I think you can see why it's popular with teens who may not want to have some of their social posts visible forever. So not to be outdone, Instagram, which of course is part of Facebook, launches a stories feature on Instagram. It's 15-second videos or photos that users could embellish, and they disappear after 24 hours. That's a copycat, of course. But it looks like Instagram may have even beat Snapchat at that game, the stories game. As I'm recording this, Snapchat has about 190 million daily active users. Instagram Stories has 500 million daily active users. Yeah, it's a pretty popular feature. Then in 2017, Facebook adds stories to Facebook. So now we've got 3 networks that have stories. Then in September 2020, LinkedIn, the very professional and business network, added stories. YouTube also has a stories feature that is still in beta as I'm recording this. I think they're going to have some challenges because YouTube is generally in the horizontal landscape viewing position, and so it's just a little awkward. And it's really at this point just for their most popular creators with 10,000 or more subscribers. So that's not a lot of users there. So why are stories so popular? Because it's such a short little snippet of content, and because it disappears, stories have a very in the moment feel and appeal. And so I think that seems real and authentic. And so I think that's one reason why stories are so popular. And as we talked about earlier with teens, it can kind of keep your social profile clean of any extraneous content that you may not want to have posted forever. Although Instagram does allow you to post your story to your standard newsfeed. Yeah, that's okay. And if it's good stuff that you might want to have people refer to in the future, yeah, then share your story to your standard news feed, but you are not required to do that. Stories are also built for the mobile consuming experience. Not only is the vertical orientation there, it also has most of the stories features that I've seen on all the networks. They have the swipe left for taking a pass on that content, so you can quickly scroll through the content and it won't slow you down. It's also a new frontier for advertisers. And what advertisers do or can do is they can create stories themselves that look like regular content. They don't have to, but I think it's a great strategy. Let's talk about the downsides of stories. Not everyone watches stories. Some of my audience skews older, and they're more used to a Facebook style, even an Instagram style or LinkedIn style of posting. And so stories don't quite mesh with how they use social media. So I may not get as much engagement on my stories. And in fact, that is what I have found. I haven't figured out my stories game, and that's always a work in progress. But my regular posts get more action than my stories post. So it's all a work in progress. Also, stories compete with the standard posts. I like stories. I really do. You can whip through people's content really quickly, as opposed to the scrolling of all the longer, bigger posts. And so I like that. And I find that I can only spend so much time on social media. So I like to go to stories. But those people, whether they're older or younger, who like that standard kind of post, they're going to ignore stories. So you may see that happening too, and so you may not have as much action on your stories as you do on your standard post. So that may be a reason. Also, your stories are like all of your other social media content on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram. They're people that you're already connected with. So don't be expecting it to be a way to reach out to new people. It's just a way to reach out to the people you know in a new way. Now, one of the things that I do to try and get more engagement from my stories viewers of my standard posts is when I have a standard post, I share that to my stories. Now, not all social networks have that capability, but on Instagram I do, and so I share my standard post, just a little preview of it on my stories, so that in case people are just swiping through and they say, oh, I really want to look at that longer content. Now, one of the things that we need to talk about here, because there may be some confusion, is that there are some lookalike features and networks to stories, but they are not stories. And the two I'm specifically talking about are Instagram Reels and TikTok. Reels is like stories, only 15 seconds of video. And unlike stories, it's a permanent post, unless you delete it, of course. Instagram Reels has a much longer shelf life on social media than stories do. Reels do not disappear after 24 hours. On TikTok, it's anything up to 60 seconds of video, and it also doesn't disappear. So don't get confused between stories, Reels, and TikTok. Those are all completely separate types of content platforms. Let's talk about some best practices for stories. Please, people, don't overpost. When I land on someone's stories, and at the top of the stories, you'll see little dashes for each post in the stories for that user. If there's like 20 or 30 of them, it's swipe left for me. I do not have time to look through all of that. It's just too much. Be judicious as to what you put in stories. When you shoot video on Instagram stories in particular, it will allow you to keep shooting after that 15-second limit. And that's great because sometimes you will go over. But I've found that there are some users that keep going with the shooting for a string of several 15-second video posts, and it gets really choppy. when the user views your stories. Just be cognizant of that and practice. You're going to have to practice to get this stories thing going right. It is a real challenge to keep your message within 15 seconds. So practice. Also, be consistent with the type of stuff that you post on your stories. Keeping it similar to the type of content that you post on your standard post will help you to look more consistent over time and build your author brand. So don't be posting all kinds of weird stuff on your stories and it contrasts with your standard post. It doesn't help you. That being said, you do have to kind of experiment with different types of stories content because some of it may resonate with your crowd. And as with everything else on social media, please, in your stories, provide value. For promotional posts, stories can be great because think about it. Your promotion will expire and your stories expire, right? So they can be great for promotions, but you want to keep it to only a small proportion of your total stories. Because if you post too much promotional stuff, people will know that your stories can be ignored because it's just all advertising. So on your stories, make sure that you are providing value. Keep your promotions on particularly buying stuff or your events that people can register for. Keep those to a minimum and always add value. So I hope you found this helpful. And if you did, please rate, review, and subscribe to The Heidi Thorne Show on whatever podcast platform you like to use. I'm on Apple Podcast and Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Amazon TuneIn Radio, Podbean. If you like the YouTube video better, that's great. You just have to subscribe to my Heidi Thorne YouTube channel and turn on the notifications so that you get an alert when a new video is available. I would appreciate it if you would share the Heidi Thorne Show with your friends on social media. And if you are looking for me and my stories on social media, I am on Instagram at Heidi Thorne. If you'd like to find my self-published books, they are on Amazon, Audible, and Apple Books. You just have to search for my name, Heidi Thorne. My author page will come up, and all my books are listed there. If you'd like to connect with me, my website is very simply HeidiThorne.com. Thank you so much for listening and for your support. I look forward to talking with you again in the next episode, and in the meantime, have a great day.